over to you.
Thank you very much. My name is EAS Conference. I'm a teacher educator at the University of the Arts in Enschede, conservatory there. This is about my master's thesis for the Educational Science Master of the Open University. Every time I try to speak English, dann kommt da nur Deutsch raus, weil ich in Deutschland lebe. Also pardon me if I don't have my way with words. My Irish is even worse, so we'll stick with English for now. Did I say it? Yeah, I didn't. First of all, we know that workload in higher education is awful, if I can use the word. 63% of questionnaire people said their workload was high or very high. And this is a huge problem at the moment. First, let me define workload. We're looking at workload as the perceived load of work. It's not the actual load of work, but the perceived workload divided by the taxability of the employee. So this is the amount of work a person can take. So if we want to reduce workload, we could increase productivity. Productivity, another definition, why not, is the balance between the output of the work and the input of the work. And in this case, the output of the work is the quality and quantity of the work that we produce, and the input is simply the time we spend on a task. Right? Now, if we want to increase productivity, we have to choose where to increase the productivity. So, fortunately, some research is already done on the components of workload in education. The first one is service. It's like governance, committees, and all the other things that our executive make us do that we really don't want to do. There's nothing much we can do there, so let's leave it at that. The second thing is research. It's really dependent on the function you have in your school if you are involved in research. In our case at the university, that's not really the case for most of the teachers at the moment. And the third one is education. It has to do with preparing and everything. Also here are, this is, yeah. Okay. Let's do that again. The first one is teaching. We can't do anything there. We have to give the classes, and we love to give our classes, and we can't take any time away from this. The second one is administration. It's email, it's registration of study results. We can't do anything about this too, and thanks to the government, it's only getting more. The third one is preparation. It's preparing our education, and I think this is where we can make the most difference at the moment. Now, if we want to increase productivity in preparation, where do we want to do that? Well, there are a few needs for preparation, but we can make the biggest difference, because why not? We all know that formative evaluation or formative assessment, or formative handling, or what you want to call it, is one of the most effective things you can do in your class. Giving feedback is one of the most effective things you can do. Spaced practice is one other thing, and I hope everybody is familiar with this term, and if you're not, it's the opposite of cramming. It's like not doing anything on Sunday evening until 3 o'clock in the night because you have a test next Monday morning at 9. It's spacing your workload of students. I know my students are there, and I know they're all experts at this. So there are a few gains to make in the future. This is all in service of self-regulation. And self-regulation is, thank you very much, the ability of the students to organize their own learning process. And we know this is important because Hattie already said that this is the largest predictor of study success there is. So if we want to make a difference, make sure your students have a good mode of self-regulation, and then we'll make the biggest progress. But we also know that self-regulation can be taught self-regulating. So we need to begeleiden. Lost the word. We need to make sure our students can really learn this skill. And one of the most effective practices is retrieval practice. And retrieval practice is simply the thing that we try to retrieve information from our long-term memory out on paper or whatever. This is in stark contrast to the most used study strategy is rereading. We know that this is at least as effective as going to YouTube and watching kitten videos. So you really don't have to waste your time there. The motive of operandi is here to read once, test 4 times, 5 times, 11 times until you really grasp the information. But the problem with retrieval practice is that we need a lot of study materials here. We can ask students to make up their own questions, to ask themselves, you have the text, so make some questions and rehearse it and do it with peers. But the problem is that we need a lot of expertise in this field, in the field of study that we already are, to make great questions and great answers. So we have to provide them with high quality practice material. So the first thing is good and relevant questions. We need to ask them questions about the material that they're studying. We also have to provide the correct answer. Google knows a lot, but it doesn't know anything of everything. Sorry. And what Google especially doesn't know is the explanation of the answer. More often than not, it's just the case that they say that this is the thing, but how? And one of my study classmates said, "Yeah, I can see the answer, but I still don't understand what's going on." And that is why we need corrective feedback on commonly made mistakes, for example. So we have to produce a lot of text. This is quite a lot of work. And the problem is we were trying to reduce workload. So what are you doing? Which is a great question. And now I'm giving quite a hint. We need to generate a lot of text. And what better to use than a large language model or as we really know it, ChatGPT, which is a generative pre-trained transformer. Right. It means it can generate text for us, which is great. It's pre-trained, so it should know what it's talking about. And the transformation bit it's quite the theme of the conference here, so maybe they got inspiration there. No, it's more like they really know what you want from it, and then they get the correct answer. So, what better way to transform education than with a transformer? Maybe not this kind of transformer, but okay. ChatGPT, really a lot has been already written about this. There are a lot of possibilities in work. There is a possibility to answer questions. So if you give ChatGPT a question, it can generate an answer, which is great. It can also be used as a study buddy. Like you can give it specialized questions to respond a certain way. But there are also a few problems with ChatGPT. One of them is that it invokes passive learning, and learning is in quotation marks because learning can never be passive. I'm very sorry. You have to do something there. Also, ChatGPT has the problem of bias and prejudice, and that has to do with the data set it's trained on. It is also biased. Like the world is changing in a very rapid fashion, and we really don't know what's in the black box it gets its information from. One of the things is discrimination. If you ask some other transformers like Midjourney to paint a picture of a black doctor helping white children, it's unfortunately the other way around. And this is a real problem. We need to check. And the final one has a really great name. It's called hallucinations. Is when you ask ChatGPT about something it's not trained on, it just makes something up because it wants to. And that's called a hallucination. And my Dutch colleagues may have been under the influence of something and experienced something like this. But let's keep it PG at the moment. So, how do we go about these problems? We need to give ChatGPT the correct input, it's called a prompt, to give it to manage the output. And the art of giving this a prompt is called prompt engineering. This is the development and optimization of prompts to use the large language model like ChatGPT most effectively. Well, also a lot is said about prompt engineering, but we're not trying to change our lives or get rich fast, so this is not the way we want to go. Please. There have been a few scientific papers about this, and I'd like to introduce you to a few models, the models for prompt engineering. And all these models will subdivide this prompt in a few components. The first one is by Retrieval. It starts with a clear instruction, like you give it a clear and precise and explicit instruction on what to do and what not to do. I'll give a tiny example of this shortly. Then you have to give it context and like where are we? What kind of answer do you want? You give it some input data. What has it to build a response about? And the output indicator is about how you want the response formatted. Like, should it be text, should it be a table, should it be a picture, whatever. Another one by Mollick and Mollick is even harsher in their instruction, because sometimes when you give it a huge instruction or a huge instruction in a small sentence, it can make mistakes. Even the most simple math questions it can get wrong. So step-by-step instructions are very effective here. Instead of context, they have it about a role. They're talking about a role and a goal. So they're not in context education, but the role of a teacher, for example. Then their output indicator is called a constraint, because sometimes ChatGPT is just going about and not stopping for anything. And they use AI as a study buddy, so they actually add pedagogy and personalization. The final model I would like to introduce is the prep-edit model. And the great thing about this model is that it's in two distinct phases. In the first phase, the prep phase makes a prompt, and in the second phase, the edit phase, one has to check the output, which is great and not a part of the first two models. So, as we said before, there's a prompt, there's a role. It should be explicit, it should be very explicit. Sometimes you have to repeat your instructions for it to do it. As I said, I'm half German, I'm very sorry. And some parameters for the output. And now for the edit phase, it starts with evaluating the output for language, facts, and structure. And the second one is determine the accuracy and check it with other sources. So Google is not your source, but Google is just a search engine to find some sources. And really check is what is generated there really the truth. Then we have to identify for bias and misinformation. And it's really a problem with ChatGPT. And it's less of a problem in the higher versions, but we would like to, in this study, we'd like to stick with the free version because it's mostly accessible, of course. And the final phase is the transform phase, where we transform the prompt or transform the output according to what we found in the first three steps of this edit phase. There's only one problem. As of now, there is no validation of prompt engineering education. And that's where I come in. I'm on a mission. The research question, which has more than 7 words on one slide, I'm very sorry, Megan, is the following. What impact does the support of AI, it's supporting AI and or giving a prompt instruction, have on productivity, in creating high quality practice materials by teachers and higher music education. And this is the study that will take place in the next half year, so after the summer break. And this is the question I hope to find an answer to very, very soon. So in this study, we will be asking teachers to make study material based on a study text. We'll check the quality, the quantity, and the time on task, self-reported, and I'll give them a prompt instruction on how to use ChatGPT. We have 3 groups there. One group has no support whatever. One group has the support of only ChatGPT, and the third group, I think they will be the winners, if I can be a little foreshadowing, is using ChatGPT and the prompt instruction. Now, what we then do is calculate the productivity, and it should be an easy peasy thing. One reminder, productivity is the quality and quantity of the work divided by the time on task, and this will be a number on a scale. Now I'll have to skip a few slides because I talked too long. This is the first one. The prompt instruction will have the following components. Is first the input. I'll help the teacher to define the input data, simply the study text. And for this, there will be made use of an English or Dutch study text that's openly available. Then we'll make a context and role. So I'll have the teacher to define that we're in higher music education, you're a teacher experienced in retrieval practice and formative evaluation and everything. Then the next one is the instruction, step by step, and the constraints for the output. And I really am fond of these 2 phases, so there will be a next phase to check the input for bias, misinformation, everything, and transform either the prompt or the output so that our transformer is happy. Sorry, I can't help myself. So I already did a small mock-up and asked ChatGPT this thing. So formulate 5 questions and answers about the following study text. And this is what happened. There we go. So there's a study text about the Baroque in the beginning of the opera, and it makes questions and answers. And for whatever reason, this is sped up twice because the ChatGPT found this very difficult, I think. So it's generating output which we can use then, which is great. But I think we can do better. So I made a new prompt, and this is also more than 7 words, a bit more. The first part of the prompt is, I don't expect you to do this, really. Send me an email and I'll give you this example prompt, it's no problem. But we give it a role in saying this is an expert teacher with and also an expert in formative practice. And we have the best in mind for our students, so we want to help them study and learn. The second part of the prompt is this one. Been busy. And we want 10 questions in this case, use memorization and understanding levels of Bloom. We all know Bloom, and if you don't Google it, we want 5 multiple choice questions, 5 open questions, and everything. We don't only want the correct answer, also justification or an explanation of the answer. And I had to be very explicit in that sense that this, oh, no, it's not working. This wasn't enough, so I needed this too. Like ChatGPT needed to know what a justification is. Okay, and to start 2 common mistakes students might make and give them a tip. So give them some corrective feedback. We're almost done, really. For each question, provide the following components. First one is, like this is the step-by-step instructions. The question. Then the correct answer. Oh, thank you. As details as possible. And then an explanation in at least 4 sentences. And of course, the corrective feedback on a few mistakes that they're making. And please adapt the language to students in higher education. Let's see what happens. Oh yeah, I already told it not to respond, but it still responded, so do not respond now, please. It really wants to say something. It's like a teacher. This is what happens. And I'm loving this. This is great. So we see a question, multiple choice with the correct answer, a justification, and I don't expect you to read this fast. Because you can respect.
Welkom weer, Gerben's brein.
So, to go back to what were the requirements of the study material? Good and relevant questions, correct answers, the explanation of answer, corrective feedback. So, I hope we're there. I have some few slides left, but not any time. So I think we'll close it here, and I'll thank you very much for your attention.